Dear friends, I hope you all are well and keeping safe. Those who celebrate the Festival of Lights, a very happy Deepavali to you. I'm reading this book called Freedom at Midnight, written by Larry Collins and Dominic Lapierre, a historical non-fiction book which focuses on events that unfolded before, during, and after Indian independence and partition. As I'm reading the book, the facts that intrigues me, I'm recording them as short videos and posting on my YouTube channel. This is the sixth video in the series, and I hope you like what you hear from me today. This particular video, I'm going to talk about Mahatma Gandhi's rift with then Congress leaders. It has a historical significance as far as Indian independence is concerned. I'm going to record the video in three segments. Segment one is about Gandhi's transformation from a common man to the sage he became. Part two is about the reasons he had the rift with then Congress leaders. And part three is more about my reflection about the entire episode. As always, feel free to leave behind your thoughts and comment. I love to hear back from you. Let's begin. Gandhi was not a born sage. He was married at the age of 13. He was sent to London at the age of 19 to continue his education there. The moment he landed in London, he realized he was a misfit in the society, and he tried everything in his might to change the situation. He changed his wardrobe. He got leather boots. He got evening suits to white gloves to silk hats. He in fact hired a French tutor. Believe it or not, he enrolled himself in dancing class, and he tried to learn the violin, but all in vain. He miserably failed, and frustrated, he just gave up everything and focused on his education. Finishing his education, he came back to India, and his struggle continued. He was outside Bombay courts for months trying to get a case. And imagine this, the person who was the voice of India was trying to get a case, trying to convince a judge. Then an event occurred which transformed Gandhi's life for good. A distant cousin of his in South Africa was having a legal battle, and his family wanted him to go and help him out. He was supposed to be there for a few weeks, and he landed up staying there for 20 years. I'm going to talk about two events that occurred in South Africa that transformed Gandhi as a person himself. The first was early part of his life, where he was traveling on a train from Durban to Pretoria. Middle of the night, a white man came and asked him to vacate the first class seat he was occupying. He refused. He had a valid ticket, and he stayed put where he was. The next station came. The white man brought in a police officer and was booted out of the train. Whole night struggling in the cold, all alone in the station, he was thinking hard, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to fight for the rights of Indians. He went ahead, he fought the case, and he won the case, where well-dressed Indian men were now allowed to travel on train in South Africa. With that success, he continued fighting for Indian community at large in South Africa. 10 years down the line, in the year 1904, the second event occurred which completely changed Gandhi as a person. This was a train ride again from Johannesburg to Durban. A good friend of him gave him a book to read. It is the book called Unto the Last, written by John Ruskin. And as he was reading the book on the way to Damascus, he already knew what he wants to do. He wanted to give up all his riches. I still recall a line from the book which stated, the riches were only a tool to secure power over men. And exactly what Gandhi believed. And he said, the first thing to do is I have to give up all the riches that I own. He had a great job. He was paid handsomely. He was earning about £5,000 a year during that time, and he gave up everything. Down the years, when he came to India, he came with two goals. One was to drive Britishers away from India in a non-violent way, and also drive the industrial revolution that India was going through, and he wanted India to come back to its old times. He has a very idealistic view of how he wanted India to be. A egalitarian view where he wanted every village in India to be self-thriving and surviving. At that point in time, India had about 600,000 villages, and he thought every village, if they can produce their own crop, if they can produce their own milk, vegetables, and if I can teach the youngs to treat the older through natural remedy, every village can thrive on its own. There will be no poverty. And he also strongly believed that a classless society is the only way we can take the people away from vices of violence, jealousy, and fighting with each other. And that was his idealistic India. In the initial part of the time, even Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, all aligned to him, all aligned to his spinning wheel where he was creating his own clothes, and he was detesting everything that was produced by Britishers. But the same was the reason why he drifted away from the leaders. If you see down the line, he became so idealistic that he wanted not even the Britishers to go, but also along with them the industry that they brought in and all the people who have made the industries in India. That didn't go too well with Nehru and Vallabhbhai Patel, the two strong leaders of Congress. Nehru was a Fabian socialist. He was progressing. He wanted to live that elite life. And Vallabhbhai Patel was a ardent industrialist. He believed in the industry. He believed that the India tomorrow is a progressive India, and he was diagonally opposite to what Gandhi's thought process was. And so much so that, when on 6th of June 1947, Mountbatten declared that India will be independent by 15th of August 1947, they were all debating on the flag. Gandhi thought it is a non-debatable point. For 30 years, he knew what the flag was: the saffron, white, and green color flag with the spinning wheel in between. The spinning wheel which represented how Gandhi wanted the India to be. That was believed by the Congress leader as a Gandhiji's toy. They believe it is a woman thing. They believe it is regressive. It is not progressive. And they replaced that with the Ashoka Chakra. Ashoka, the founder of Hindu Empire in India, and his chakra was a symbol of warriorism. Gandhi was detested. He was so sad that his spinning wheel was going away, which is a symbol of his freedom. And that kind of causes a drift between him, and that was one of the core reasons. The second core reason was Gandhi didn't want partition. It's not that Nehru wanted partition either, but Gandhi didn't want it at any particular cost and price. In fact, if you recall from my previous video, in his meeting with Mountbatten, he said that what if I give the entire power to Jinnah, the Muslim leader, and that way, we don't have to partition, because Jinnah, if you recall, he was the one looking to separate India out into India and Pakistan, and he wanted to rule Pakistan. And Mountbatten said, look, if you can get it, nothing like it. And Gandhi was so confident, but when he came back, that was the second drift he had with his leaders. The leaders wanted power. They have struggled hard, and they didn't want to give it to Jinnah. They wanted to have their own India. And if that means we need to partition, so be it. So those are the core reasons of why Gandhi drifted away from this party. Towards the end of his time, life as well as the independence, Gandhi was so drifted that he remained quiet. He wanted to go out of Congress, and he didn't speak much, which was so required. And that's where my reflection comes into play. I'll give you two reflections. The first reflection itself is a little ironical statement, and which kind of leads to my first thought process of what I believe Gandhi should have changed. If you see the message that Gandhi used to give to all these people, that was through a microphone, again a product of industrial revolution. The travel he used to do from one corner to other corner of India is through trains. And again at the same time, believe it or not, the first ashram that Gandhi had, it was supported by G.D. Birla, who was an industrialist, a textile owner. He used to give 50,000 rupees a year to run that ashram. Now, if you see that, the invariably Gandhi, whether Gandhi liked it or not, industrialism was in India, it was ingrained, and some of those were leveraged by Gandhi himself. In my opinion, Gandhi should have been a little progressive. I'm not saying that going to the extreme, but coming to terms with the Congress leader somewhere in between, rather than having a completely idealistic way to give freedom to India. That is my thought again. You may disagree, but would love to hear from you. And I think because of that, he completely went away, and which is where I go to my second point, is the all bloodshed that happened between India and Pakistan during that partition time. Gandhi was extremely quiet, and he was quiet because he thought that it's not about the leaders alone, but the entire India was going towards a new India. It was not the idealistic India he had. Because his views, because his, the thoughts he had, the people are not reflecting, the community who was at large, he thought that my words had no value. So he didn't speak much. He was the voice of India. If my viewpoint is, if he would have spoken up, if he would have asked people to come together during that trying times, maybe the bloodshed would not happen. Partition was inevitable for sure. Maybe embracing that and seeing that how his voice could have helped. So those are my thoughts and reflection. Hope you like what you heard. If you disagree or if you have a different point of view, I'll always love to hear back from you. Leave behind your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from you as always. Thank you once again for lending your ears to me. Take care now. Bye.